to enable them to participate in a healthier environment. Residents who would become members of the co-op would be able to purchase local foods from county farmers and familiar favorites, as well as bulk products that would be available to the families to save money. Their main goal is to reinvest money and create jobs in the city of Aliquippa. With more than $1 billion coming to expand high-speed internet in the state, State Representative Rob Matzey is urging local governments, nonprofit organizations, and internet service providers to participate in a critical survey to ensure those dollars reach their intended targets. Matzey, who is a board member on the Pennsylvania Broadband Development Authority and majority chairman of the House of Consumer Protection Technology and Utilities, says the BEAD challenge will provide essential feedback to ensure the new funding is allocated properly. Matzey says it's critical to ensure the funding goes to areas where it's most needed, and they need to get this right. He's urging local governments, nonprofits, and service providers to complete the BEAD challenge to ensure the dollars are put to their best use. The Hopewell Commissioners issued a proclamation declaring a disaster emergency. Beaver County Radio News correspondent Sandy Giordano reports that the proclamation was issued at Monday night's regular meeting due to the heavy, sustained, and torrential rains that occurred this month. Also at the meeting, it was announced that the Joe Craig Memorial Youth Fishing Derby will be held at the lake in the Township Park on Saturday, May 4th. The Adult Fishing Derby will be Sunday, May 5th. The regular township meeting next will be on Tuesday, May 28th at the township offices. April has been Invasive Plant Pest and Disease Awareness Month, but the pests don't know that. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture says it's the best time of the year for Pennsylvanians to spot invasive species before they can do more damage. Danielle Smith reports.
Invasive pests cost the U.S. about $40 billion a year in damages to trees, plants, and crops. Catherine Bronsky with the USDA says hungry pests include not only invasive insects, but diseases they carry, which people can unknowingly spread.
Some examples of what to be on the lookout for are Asian longhorn beetle and spongy moth, and other pests that harm trees and natural resources, and fruit flies, citrus greening, spotted lanternfly, and lots of others that can damage crops and agriculture here in the U.S.
Bronsky points out the spotted lanternfly eggs have not hatched yet, so she urges people to be on the lookout for their egg masses, which resemble small mud smears. She recommends scraping them into plastic bags with sanitizer or squashing them directly. Either approach will help demise the invasive spotted lanternfly population.
Democratic U.S. Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania wants a series of 3 debates with his Republican challenger David McCormick ahead of the November election, and McCormick is readily accepting. Casey said in a statement Thursday he intends to participate in debates in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, and Harrisburg. Asked about it at a campaign event, McCormick said it's a great idea. A series of 3 such meetings would give the debate stage the most robust presence in a Senate race in Pennsylvania since 2006, when Casey and then GOP Senator Rick Santorum joined 4 debates. Pennsylvania's last 5 Senate contests featured either 2 debates or 1.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
A bit chilly this morning, but we'll have a warm-up with lots of sunshine and a high near 69. Increasing clouds tonight. We could see some rain through the overnight. We'll drop down to a very mild low of 51. Showers likely in the early morning tomorrow. Otherwise, mostly cloudy with a high of 72. Mostly sunny on Sunday. We may see an afternoon thunderstorm. Look for a high near 81. And more sunshine in the forecast for Monday. A high near 84 is expected. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
On this Friday, April the 26th of 2024, at 10 minutes past 9, we've got a temperature of 51 degrees with sunny skies in Beaver County. This newscast was brought to you by the J&J Spratt Funeral Home in New Brighton. I'm Curtis Walsh for Beaver County Radio News, 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Now, it's time to talk on Teleforum on Beaver County Radio. 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, and beavercountyradio.com. And now, here is the host of the show, Eddie Crow.
It is Teleforum. It is Friday. I think we have something in common. Does it happen to you where you start the work week and you're paying attention and you're actually trying to focus and you're lifting that barge and toting that bale and you're proud to do it? And by the time Friday comes, if your shoes match, you feel like you've given your all. I came in this morning, shoes matching because I'm a pro, and I had completely forgotten that Larry was coming here today. Bro, you were like manna from heaven. Larry Kelly of the Law Group, Luxembourg, Garvey, Kelly, and George. This is live on Facebook. How are you doing? I did. I looked at a schedule 2 days ago, and I saw Larry. I had completely forgotten. I looked at the schedule this morning. I'm like, oh, thank you, Jesus. I love you, Jesus.
Tote that bar, lift that bell.
Yeah.
You get a little drunk, and you land in jail. Old Man River from Showboat. Brother, I didn't know you were a thespian. I didn't know you were understood the culture and the arts. I mean, I knew you were a wealth of knowledge and information.
Which, you know, it's an even bigger deal because we're singing about getting tossed in jail as the district attorney walks by. It's like, wait a minute, that's a prison song. Have you done time?
No, Nate Bible, good man, good attorney. You'll do a great job for the people of Beaver County. Now, you got to let me know when I'm going to be on TV because
right now
I don't have my
all the
uniform
time.
on.
You don't have your time?
I don't have,
it's
my dad,
casual.
here's a story, right? And I've said this so many times. My dad, Fred Kelly, wasn't a formally educated man. However, the expanse of his wisdom was infinite. Mm-hmm. And this is a funny story. I'm a young lawyer, and we're walking down the street in downtown Newcastle on a very hot summer day.
Like Lucky LaRue.
And we see two lawyers walking towards us. One lawyer is dressed to the nines with his suit and tie on, while the other lawyer, because it's a little bit warm, doesn't have a tie and doesn't even have a jacket on. And my dad said to me, knowing nothing else about those two lawyers, if you had to pick one, who are you choosing? I'm choosing the guy that's dressed to the nines. He looks like he's very successful. And then he left these words with me that I'll never forget. He said, son, if you're going to be a lawyer, you have to look like one all the time because you never know who's watching. And so therefore, I wear, as you know, a suit and tie all the time. Now, I have my jacket on, but no tie this morning, so I feel a little bit naked. But I guess in the world we live in, this is the look now. The young guys, they don't wear ties anymore.
I do watch, and I see people, and there is a lot of people that I notice they're not wearing a tie.
Yeah.
And a very nice collared shirt, Brooks Brothers vibe, and a jacket, but it's like I'm a professional, but I'm down to earth too. I think that's what they're trying to pitch.
Maybe, I guess. I don't know. Am I down to earth, Eddie? I've never heard. I guess I'm too down to earth, my wife says.
Down to earth is one of the most beautiful and rare things in the human condition, and yes, you very much are.
My wife says, I like to say, I'm like a Beaver County guy, and my wife says that isn't all good. She says that isn't all good.
You can twist it. It's not all good, but it builds character.
Well, yeah, I'm real, sometimes too real, I guess.
Larry Kelly, here's why you were a down-to-earth guy. This is the definition in my mind. You would have a conversation with the President of the United States just like you would have the same conversation with a service industry worker, garbage person, waiter. You treat everybody, you're going to have the same conversation with anybody, regardless of their statue, regardless of the Brooks Brothers suit or the coveralls.
You know, it's funny that you say that because that's another thing my father used to say, that, you should be able to have breakfast with a king and dinner with a hobo and feel equally comfortable with both. And then he would follow that up and saying, and by the way, you'll be judged on how you treat the hobo. Yeah. The king or the president, if you treat them nice or with respect, that's no big deal because everybody treats them nice and with respect. You'll be judged on how you treat those people who are less fortunate than you are. And I try to do that, Eddie. I do. I just, that's who I am. That's where I grew up. That's who I am. And, If you like it and I can help you with your legal issues, come and see me. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. That's what I've always said.
And that's not said in a flippant, okay, don't like it, leave. It's accepted, no hard feelings, no harm, no foul.
True. If there's somebody out there better for you, that'll do a better job when you're injured or in your work comp case or your Social Security case, then you should be with those people. I tell people all the time, you should interview the attorney that is going to work for you, just like somebody gets interviewed when they're applying for a job, because that's basically what I'm doing when you walk into my office. I'm applying for a job. I'm applying to be your attorney. And I tell people all the time, listen, come and talk to me and go talk to 2 or 3 other attorneys if you want. Anybody that's ever done that, I can say, and maybe this is, I shouldn't say it, but
you're kind of holding your
breath. They've all come back.
There you go.
They've all come back.
They've done it and they've recognized. And what am I looking for when I need a lawyer, when I interview a lawyer?
I think experience. There's no substitute for it. As the people can see, I have gray hair.
Yeah.
I don't like having gray hair, but I've earned it.
You have hair, though, Larry.
I've been doing this for 40 years, Eddie. I've seen the movie before and how these cases go, and I know how it's going to end. So there's no substitute for experience. As a trial lawyer, I told you, I've tried over 100 cases. I've quit conning. There's probably no scenario that I haven't seen. And, I can't guarantee results. Nobody can. Only effort. You get everything we have, you'll get our best effort. And normally when you give your best effort, no different than athletics, you get a pretty good result.
Larry Kelly with the Law Group Luxembourg, Garber, Kelly and George, L.G.K.G.com to get in touch with him. That's what you look for in a lawyer. As a lawyer, what are you looking for in a client?
Well,
because you've said before, you've had people come to you and you've told them, thanks but no thanks.
Yeah, look, credibility, trials are credibility contests. And so when you tell me what happened to you, I'm looking for somebody to tell me the story without pomp and circumstance, to be very matter of fact. Sometimes when a member of your family dies,
right,
and we've represented several families who've lost a loved one, it's a very emotional situation. And when you've got to come and tell me the story on how it happened or why it happened, whether it's an automobile accident or a medical error, it's not easy to do. But I want people who are doing it, for the right reason. I want people who are credible, who will trust our experience and our judgment. If you don't trust me, you shouldn't be there.
Can you judge that? Can you judge that immediately? And what if I start out as your client, I trust you, and then for whatever reason, I'm starting to second guess you?
Let me ask you a question, Eddie.
Sure. That's such a lawyer phrase. Let me ask you a question.
Let me ask you a question.
Right.
How long does it take you to figure out if the person sitting across the table from you is the real deal? How long?
Not very, unless it's a beautiful woman, then I get all googly, and I'll buy into a bad sale of goods from time to time.
Yeah,
you're right. That first impression is pretty quick.
5 minutes.
I will judge you, or I will start judging you, I suspect, the same way a lawyer does. Your answer to my first question.
Yeah, less than 5 minutes.
Your answer to my first question.
Yeah, so it's the same. I got a pretty good feel for people in 5 minutes or less. And, especially in a medical malpractice case, we handle so many of them in L.G.K.G, and they're tragic situations. And I always say that the credibility of the client, of the people who are bringing the case, will be judged as critically as by the jury as they judge the treatment that was rendered by the doctor or the hospital. So if the credibility of the client doesn't stand up to the credibility of the healthcare provider, you're not going to be successful in that case. That's what my experience tells me.
Do clients understand that they are being judged just like the defendant?
I make it clear from the moment you walk into that courtroom until the moment you leave. In fact, I've had several cases where I represent a young child who was brain damaged as a result of a birth injury, or I had one child lose all of her fingers as a result of a hospital not paying attention to an arterial line. I introduced them the first day of trial during opening statement, and I never had them come back for two reasons. Number one, they're children. They can't be in the courtroom and probably act appropriately. And number two, when you watch a disabled person, the first time they saw the young girl with no fingers, the jury gasped. But if you watch it every day for 2 weeks, they become numb to it.
Do
They become numb to it. And in fact, even my adult clients, I'll have them there the first day. I'll have them there when they testify. I will not have them there after that until the jury's ready to render their decision, because it's hard to sit there for 2 weeks and not be judged and not, I don't like the shoes that woman was wearing. She wears too much makeup. Or if it's a guy, his shirt was pulled out,
And it can really be something as minuscule as an untucked
you never know.
shirt.
They watch everything you do. Everything. They watch everything you do. And they watch everything I do. But, I am an experienced courtroom advocate.
You know that's part of the presentation that's always there for you.
Right. The way I dress, the way I interact with my client, the way I interact with the other attorney, the way I interact with the court. Am I appropriate? I try to show zero emotion in the courtroom. I mean, I could have a defense attorney doing crazy stuff, but I am not going to let it show on my face. I'm not going to throw my hands in the air. I'm not going to pound the table. I sit there stoic.
Is there a time that is a benefit, though, that for a fact, just to demonstrate you got that?
Yeah, here's the deal.
Like, one table pound, that's all I need.
I had a trial advocacy professor who was a genius and in law school. And his theory on objections is that you should never object more than once in the morning and once in the afternoon, because jurors hate objections. They think you're trying to hide something when you object. So his theory was, his name was Charles Kirkwood. Guy was brilliant. And I still remember this, and this was 40 years ago. He called his theory the CK, after Charles Kirkwood.
Nice.
Half day, once in the morning, once in the afternoon, righteous indignation theory.
Oh, yes.
Which means that you only got two.
Yeah.
Object once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Do it with righteous indignation to make it look that the other guy's cheating.
You really believe it.
That the other guy's trying to hoodwink the jury and make sure it's a winning objection. So that's what I do. If I object at all, CK half day, righteous indignation theory. If you're watching, Professor Kirkwood passed away a few years ago. We actually, at L.G.K.G, started a scholarship in his name at Akron University for the trial advocacy team, which people ask me, why did you go to Akron University? Pitt and Duquesne are right in your backyard. I always knew I wanted to be a trial lawyer, and they have the best trial advocacy program in the country. One of the top 5 schools in the country is at Akron University.
Pretty good teacher, too, that 40 years later you can
Still
sit
remember.
here and go boom, 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 boom.
Still remember. And it was only maybe 5 years ago I was in a case. He was living in Florida.
Where all college professors go. Yeah.
I called him up, and after I graduated, I called him CK because that was his nickname. CK, this is Larry Kelly. Now, I hadn't talked to him in a couple of years. He said, Larry who? Come on now. This is Larry Kelly. He said, I haven't heard from you from so long. I thought you were dead. I was checking the obituary.
I thought you were dead.
He was kidding me. But I called him up. I needed some advice. He was a brilliant man. And, I was lucky. You got to have mentors in this world. You do.
Is it harder to find a mentor, or is it harder to recognize when one's there?
I think you can recognize them pretty easily. It's harder to find one. Actually, one of my mentors, trial attorney from Akron, Ohio, because I worked for him for a couple years when I was in law school, Paul Parantonitis, I'm going to be inducted as the president of the Pennsylvania Association for Justice in July.
That's so cool.
There's 3,000 lawyers who are part of this organization. Mm-hmm. So it's quite an honor. And I asked him to be there because he was one of my mentors. Mm-hmm. And I said, whatever modest success I've enjoyed in my career has been due in large part from what I learned from people like you. So.
You get a better parking space with that gig?
I don't know if I do or not.
I bet you could argue for one.
I don't know if I do or not.
Larry Kelly, Law Group Luxembourg, Garba Kelly, and George is my guest. I love when we get to spend an hour together. News is next, and then more with a major award winner.
Beaver County Transit Authority connects you to where you want to be. The doctor's office or well-deserved shopping spree will take you to wherever you please. Safe, no fuss, leave the driving to us. Hop on, adventures coming your way.
The Beaver County Transit Authority Fast Forward Summer Pass is back in 2024. The application opens online at bcta.com or in person at the Rochester Transportation Center on May 11. The days are getting longer and the weather is warming up. Don't miss your chance to travel around Beaver County and even into Pittsburgh all summer long. Children ages 6 to 21 ride free between June 1st and August 31st.
Safe, no fuss, leave the driving to us. Adventures just a ride away. Beaver County Transit Authority, BCTA. Ride the bus.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford knows that the only vehicle that matters is the one you're interested in. It's true, you know. It doesn't matter how big the dealership is or how many years they've been in business if you can't find the right car for your budget. That's why Falcone's Moon Township Ford goes the extra mile to help make the perfect match for you and your pocketbook. Now, sometimes that might mean giving you a little bit more for your trade-in, or maybe being a little more patient with you while you test drive several vehicles. Click moontownshipford.net and start the process now. Then, visit the showroom on University Boulevard across from Robert Morris when you're ready to drive into spring in style. Falcone's Moon Township Ford knows there's only one car that will do for you, and they'll help you find it. Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
When you talk about community involvement and safety, the name Fry stands at the forefront in Beaver County. Fry Transportation's mission is to continue to raise the bar as the gold standard in their industry by providing the safest, most reliable, and cost-efficient transportation service in Beaver County through their strong relationships with their communities, best-in-their-class drivers, equipment, and technology. There's nothing more important than the safety of their students, employees, and community members. Fry Transportation, where the quality of their organization is characterized by the makeup of the individual behind the wheel.
The Rochester True Value, located inside the Shop and Save on the Ohio River Boulevard, is proudly serving the community. The Rochester True Value is independently owned and operated and has experienced workers who can help you with your home projects. The Rochester True Value has tools, products, and all the equipment needed for you to get the job done. The Rochester True Value inside the Shop and Save is open and ready to help with your home improvements. That's the Rochester True Value in Shop and Save on the Ohio River Boulevard.
Thinking of what's good for lunch or dinner? Make it McDonald's with a hot and spicy McChicken sandwich available now for a limited time only. Enjoy crispy, tender chicken seasoned with a bold mix of spices, topped with shredded lettuce, mayo, and served on a perfectly toasted bun. McDonald's, I'm loving it.
Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA. And streaming at beavercountyradio.com. Here's Curtis Walsh.
Good morning. We can expect sunny skies today with a high around 70 degrees. We'll have a complete Beaver County radio weather forecast after we take this look at news. Food co-op possibilities were discussed in Aliquippa. There's no grocery store in the downtown area, and a group has been exploring the possibilities of having one, according to Tyrone Patillo, who is a co-op coordinator. He spoke at a meeting for the Blight and Vacant Property Committee Tuesday night about a mission-based grocery store. He told residents that a co-op is a community-owned store that makes food accessible, supports local small business owners, and is able to create jobs, and says it would be a community hub to engage residents of the city and surrounding area, enabling them to participate in a healthier environment. The site could also be a gathering place for residents to collaborate with the businesses and organizations in the community. Residents who would become members of the co-op would be able to purchase local foods from county farmers and familiar favorites, as well as buying bulk products that would be available to families to save money. The Hopewell Commissioners issued a proclamation declaring a disaster emergency. The proclamation was issued at Monday night's regular meeting due to the heavy, sustained, and torrential rains that occurred last month. Also at the meeting, it was announced the Joe Craig Memorial Youth Fishing Derby will be held at the lake in the Township Park on Saturday, May 4th, with the Adult Fishing Derby being held on Sunday, May 5th. The next regular Township meeting will be Tuesday, May 28th. PennDOT District 11 has announced barrier repair work on the West End Bridge in the city of Pittsburgh. That's set to begin tonight, weather permitting. A single-lane restriction will occur in both directions on the bridge and associated ramps beginning at 6 p.m. tonight and lasting continuously through 7 a.m. Monday morning as crews from Jet Excavating conduct barrier repairs. Motorists are told to use caution if traveling on the bridge. April has been Invasive Plant Pest and Disease Awareness Month, but the pests don't know that. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture says it's the best time of the year for Pennsylvanians to spot invasive species before they can do more damage. Danielle Smith reports.
Invasive pests cost the U.S. about $40 billion a year in damages to trees, plants, and crops. Catherine Bronsky with the USDA says hungry pests include not only invasive insects, but diseases they carry, which people can unknowingly spread.
Some examples of what to be on the lookout for are Asian longhorn beetle and spongy moth, and other pests that harm trees and natural resources, and fruit flies, citrus greening, spotted lanternfly, and lots of others that can damage crops and agriculture here in the U.S.
Bronsky points out the spotted lanternfly eggs have not hatched yet, so she urges people to be on the lookout for their egg masses, which resemble small mud smears. She recommends scraping them into plastic bags with sanitizer or squashing them directly. Either approach will help demise the invasive spotted lanternfly population.
BNSF will become the second major freight railroad to allow some of its employees to report safety concerns anonymously through a federal system without fear of discipline. The Federal Railroad Administration announced Thursday that the railroad owned by Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway had agreed to let its roughly 650 dispatchers participate in the program all the other major railroads promised to join after last year's disastrous derailment in East Palestine. Until NS became the first major railroad to sign on in January, all the major freight railroads had resisted joining because they wanted the ability to discipline workers who used the hotline in certain circumstances.
Here's the Beaver County forecast.
A bit chilly this morning, but we'll have a warm up with lots of sunshine and a high near 69. Increasing clouds tonight. We could see some rain through the overnight. We'll drop down to a very mild low of 51. Showers likely in the early morning tomorrow. Otherwise, mostly cloudy with a high of 72. Mostly sunny on Sunday. We may see an afternoon thunderstorm. Look for a high near 81. And more sunshine in the forecast for Monday. A high near 84 is expected. I'm Lisa Marie with your Beaver County weather.
On this Friday, April the 26th of 2024, on 35 after 9, we've got a temperature of 54 degrees with sunny skies in Beaver County. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh on 99.3 FM and AM 1230 WBVP, also streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Talk about what's happening in Beaver County or around the world on Teleforum. 724-843-1888. 724-774-1888. It's Teleforum with Eddie Crow.
Larry Kelly in the studio with me, the Fry Transportation Group studio. Larry Kelly of the Law Group Luxembourg, Garbutt, Kelly, and George. If you need a lawyer, L.G.K.G.com. That's about all we get into lawyer talk when you show up, and I love
a lot
that.
about, I think, Luxembourg, Garvey, Kelly, and George, who we are, what we do, and why we do it.
Well, I want to ask you a lawyer question.
Go ahead.
Now, wait, what's your retainer? I got to check my wallet. I'm kidding. Talk about witness intimidation and talk about juror intimidation, because it's in the news and there's a whole lot of hullabaloo and gag order this and breaking gag order that. Walk me through that. What is witness or juror intimidation to you? What is it?
Sacred intimidation, or sacred ground.
Okay.
Witness and jury intimidation. You cannot, as a trial lawyer, suggest answers or intimidate witnesses, talk to jurors outside of anywhere. And as a lawyer, we have certain ethical responsibilities that would actually cause us to withdraw from the case if we can't control our client. We put a client up on the witness stand and ask a question.
I didn't know that.
And we know that the client is not telling the truth.
Why would you ask a question that would give your client an opportunity to
Well,
lie?
you know the truthful answer.
You know that the truth is worse.
Well, you know that the truthful answer.
Okay.
You know, and if he gets up there or she gets up there and is not telling the truth, you have an obligation ethically as a lawyer to stop questioning the witness, because now you're basically subordinating perjury. If you know
that was a fancy phrase.
What I mean,
I know what perjury is. What is subordinating?
You're basically allowing it to happen.
You know it's happening, and you don't say anything.
You don't, right.
Is that a defense lawyer's responsibility?
Oh, absolutely. It's any lawyer's responsibility. And if you know that your client has inappropriately contacted a juror, you got to withdraw from the case, because now you have client confidentiality that prevents you from telling the judge. But you have to withdraw from the case. Your Honor, I have to withdraw from the case. Why, Mr. Kelly?
Right.
Because I know of some things that I can't tell you involving my client that would not allow me to continue to represent him or her in this case. That's an ethical obligation. Same thing about intimidating a witness. If you know it's happening. Now, if it's public knowledge,
if it's on a social media
you
platform,
you have an obligation to tell your client to stop it, and if he or she doesn't, you have an obligation to withdraw from the case ethically. I was on the Pennsylvania Disciplinary Board for 5 years. I sat along with 12 other people who were the judges of statewide cases involving discipline and ethical violations of lawyers. So I'm very cognizant of the ethical rules and obligations. And man, I would, like I said, that's sacred ground. Witnesses, jurors, you can't infringe on them any way, anyhow. Can't do it.
do we have a definite definition of infringement when it comes to social media? Where's that line crossed?
Well,
I have no idea.
Listen, if it depends what it says. I know what you're talking about, and I haven't been following it.
I know, that's why I'm asking you.
Right, I haven't been following it. Mm-hmm. But if you, as a lawyer, see a threat on a social media to a witness or a juror, and you can't get your client to stop, you have an ethical obligation to withdraw, and if you don't, you could be subject to ethical consequences, losing of your law license.
What is the definition, to your lawyer's mind, of a threat? If I go online, you're whoever you are,
if you testify
I'm
against me, somebody's going to show up at your house tonight.
That's a threat.
And shoot you,
or
something, or harm you.
Sure. If I say, that Larry Kelly, he's the judge in my case, and boy, is he a bad judge, and he's conflicted, and he's in this and that, I'm not raising the flag of action, I'm just talking crap about you. Is that a threat?
Unfortunately, we know what kind of statements what kind of effect those statements can have by powerful people who have a following that is cult-like. And so therefore, if I'm your lawyer, I'm telling you to stop, and if you don't stop, I'm withdrawing from the case.
How long does it take for you to recognize when a lawyer's in over their head? Because I know you've faced lawyers.
5 minutes.
You said early on you were one of those lawyers.
No, let's say 1 day.
Yeah?
Yeah, 1 day.
Does that change your plans?
I would prefer to try cases against experienced and qualified lawyers because the case runs so much more smoothly. Lawyers that aren't experienced and qualified, the trial becomes somewhat of a circus, and I never like that. I believe in the professionalism of the courtroom.
Does it change your plans in terms of your approach? Do you consider things you're going to do now that you didn't going into court once you realize, oh, dear goodness, this guy has no idea what's going on?
I mean, sure, it could
Use
affect
smaller words.
it could affect the way you do things or handle certain things. I mean, I've been involved in my career with really highly experienced and qualified lawyers and those who weren't. But, I've won cases against experienced and highly qualified lawyers, and I've lost a couple cases where the lawyer on the other side didn't have a clue.
What year did you get your law license?
83.
How is practicing law different now in 2024 than 1983?
Modern technology has changed the way the game's played. I used to walk into the courtroom with a brief, literally one of those suitcases that you would take on a trip if you were going on a 3-week vacation with all kind of files and exhibits. I mean, a roller suitcase. Today, I pretty much walk in with my laptop. I used to walk in with boards that were 4 feet by 6 with exhibits pasted on there. Now we walk in with a screen and a projector. So, and of course, social media you better monitor social media while your trial's going on, because even though the judges will tell the jurors that they shouldn't be
on their phones
or Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, everybody is.
What recourse does the judge have? If I'm in the jury box and I'm pretending not to look at my phone and it's in my lap and the judge looks up, what recourse does the judge have for anybody?
Remove them from the jury. Yeah. But worse than that, I want all the evidence to come in from the witness stand. I don't want somebody to post something on social media that could be considered evidentiary in my case that a jury reads that I don't have a chance to cross-examine.
What would a judge do? He's got to give you a chance to get the information that's been made available to the other side.
What would happen is if I would see something on social media that would suggest one way or the other have an effect on the case that I'm trying, I bring it to the judge's attention, and then he probably would go to the jury, and ask them, there's been some information posted about this trial, has anybody seen it? If you've seen it, we need to talk about it. And not talk about it in front of the other jurors. Talk about it, what they call in camera in the judge's chambers, to see if it, one way or another would affect you.
Is that the principal's office?
That's the principal's office.
That's what I've done. How much more or less difficult is it to seat a jury now than 1983? How is it different?
Well, again, I think there's so much outside information, especially in look, I tried a couple homicide cases. One of the cases, we had to pick the jury in Harrisburg because there was so much publicity locally, and then bring them to Lawrence County and then sequester them for 2 weeks. All we had to be concerned about is that they couldn't read the local newspaper. Today, we got to be concerned about Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and anything and everything they may see about the trial, on social media. It's hard to control that. It's hard to control that. I mean, these jurors that are sitting in the Trump criminal case, how do you control that they don't go home? And I don't think this jury's sequestered. I'm almost certain that it isn't.
I haven't heard that yet.
How do we know that they don't go home and turn on MSNBC or Fox News and listen to a different slant of the evidence that's been presented that day? How do you control that? Wow.
How do you control that? We're talking about poisoning the jury.
Sure, one way or the other. The judge got to be very stern in his instructions, and I mean very stern in his instructions. And I think this judge is very stern in his instructions. One of the things he told the media is, look, I don't want to read in the paper tomorrow or on social media, we don't put the juror's name in there, but if we put their address and where they work and how many kids they have and, how old they are, it's pretty easy to figure out who they are. Stop it.
Sure.
And I think that stopped. Judge got a lot of power.
Do we know how much power a judge has typically? And I mean, other than in the case when they say do this, I didn't know they could do that.
Oh, it's unfettered.
Yeah, is it?
Pretty much. Unless the appellate court says you can't. But, there's civil contempt, there's criminal contempt. A judge can fine you, he can put you in jail, he can do, or she can do a lot of things.
And that's why it's nice to, yes, ma'am, yes, sir.
It's just protocol. And even though, there have been times that judges have made decisions that I thought were absolutely unbalanced.
That's a very polite word.
And I remember one case, this is many, many years ago, and it wasn't in Beaver County and it wasn't in Lawrence County, it was one of the outlying counties, that a judge did something and that I thought was really unbalanced. And my partner, who was young at the time, wanted to stand up and go crazy. I grabbed him by the shoulder. I said, sit down.
Yeah.
Sit down.
You might be right, but it ain't going to be helpful. Is that the thinking?
We're not, listen, if you get up and start, you may go to jail. I'm not going to allow that to happen because he was really mad.
Is there ever a time when you said, you know what, to heck with it, I'll take the contempt, I'll go to jail? It is the hill for you to die on in that case?
No, not yet. There's a certain amount of professionalism, even though I'm getting a little more crazy.
Cool.
I remember I tried a case in, again, an outlying county north of here, and it was a med-mal case, and the judge said, Mr. Kelly, I've been on the bench for 35 years. We've never had a plaintiff's verdict in this county in a medical malpractice case, and so I think you ought to consider listening really hard to what, if anything's being offered by the defense. And my response...
The judge said that.
The judge told me that. He's trying to settle the case, but my response, I was about a 20-year practitioner then, was, after he told me there's never been a plaintiff's verdict, I said, Judge, I hope you're not proud of that fact.
Is that a good thing, Your Honor? Now, see, the southern phrasing of that would be, it ain't gone well for other than like you, son.
Yeah.
Might want to have a chat.
Yeah, I mean, it just...
Is that intimidation? Did you feel intimidated?
No, not at that stage. Maybe if I was practicing 2 years rather than 20. But he was right. He's trying to settle the case. Hopefully, he told the guy on the other side, we were separated. He's trying to mediate the case. This Larry Kelly's a good lawyer. Buddy, if he goes in there, we haven't had a plaintiff's work around here in a long time, but if somebody's going to get one, it's going to be him. That's what he should have been telling the other guy.
I know it's different, but practicing law in 2024, is the legal system better than it was in, or is it more just or less just than 1983?
I believe in the legal system wholeheartedly.
Still,
I do. I just do. I believe in the collective genius of the jury.
Okay.
I believe in the judges. They try to get it right. They're not always going to get it right. They're like an umpire in a baseball game. They're going to miss a few calls, but they're there to do the right thing. We're very fortunate here in Beaver County. These judges are qualified, and they're fair, and they've all been lawyers, and they know what it's like to try cases, and that is so important. So the people in Beaver County are very fortunate. This bench is, I've practiced not in all 67 counties, but in at least half of them, and I always feel really, really comfortable here in Beaver County.
Have you ever gone up in front of a judge somewhere else and within 5 minutes thought, oh dear goodness, where did they get this person?
Well, I just want the judge.
No names.
I know. I don't want. Listen, Eddie, I'm not looking for any favors. I just want the judge to know the law as well as I know it, as well as Larry Kelly knows it, because I know the law cold going into every case. I want the judge to know the law as well as I know it, because if I make an objection, it's legit, And if somebody else makes one and it's not legit, the law doesn't support it, I just want them, I know what's admissible and what isn't. And again, it's not because I'm a genius. It's because I've been doing it for 40 years. It's because you may be smarter than me, but you're not outworking me. You're not going to be more prepared than me. You're just not. And I know the law going in. I want the judge to know it as well as I do. That's all I ask.
I think you and I asked you this once. If I wanted to be a judge, what are the steps? I just announce I'm running for judge?
Well, you have to be a lawyer.
You do have to previously be a lawyer.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a rule.
Yeah, and then you can run for judge. After that, it's a political race.
Does that help or hurt?
I'm telling you,
political.
Look, the people in Beaver County get it.
Okay.
Because the judges that sit on this bench have all been lawyers, have all been good lawyers, have all had sterling reputations. And I believe that if you're going to be a judge, you should have that experience. You should have the experience of being a lawyer for a few years so that you have that experience and take that experience with you into the courtroom.
Who knows better or who knows best how good a judge is?
Lawyers. Just the lawyers, yeah. Just a lawyer. Just like Eddie, you want the respect of your peers, right? We talked about this off air. As a lawyer, the only thing that I cared about was having the respect of my peers. Because the general public doesn't know if Larry Kelly is a good lawyer or not. But my peers do. And the judges before whom I've practiced do. You know, I'm AV rated by Martin Delahubbell. I've had Pennsylvania super lawyer recognition. That recognition comes from my peers and from the judges. And those are the only people I care about. At the end of the day, you know, I don't care if they say Larry Kelly, you know, he was this. I just want them to say he was a good lawyer. I mean, you know, in my profession, the people that know, I want them to say that. It's important to me that they say that. And I work really hard every day to make sure that I maintain the integrity of the profession and I earn the respect of my peers.
Was there ever a time you were worried about them liking you?
You know, you don't. I want respect.
Not respect.
You might not have to. You might not like me. You know,
Yeah.
I listen, but I'm very congenial in court. You know, I had a situation one time where I made the mistake of calling a woman attorney Kate. I said, and she said, "My name's Catherine," and I apologized.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm sorry.
And that's all you can do.
Yeah, and if, you know, right. And that's just, again, I don't, there's been a few lawyers that's gotten under my skin.
On purpose to do it or just their style and it happened to be that way?
Credibility things, saying one thing and then doing another. That's the cardinal sin of the legal profession. If I tell you I'm going to do it, Eddie, I'm going to do it.
If you and I are talking outside the courtroom, we say, here's what I'm going to do, and I go in and I do something else?
Yeah, that's an issue.
Okay.
You know, it's those kind of issues. We put a lawyer one time on the no-call list at Luxembourg, Garbutt, Kelly, and George.
What's that? That sounds great.
He called up and wanted to talk to one of the lawyers. I'm sorry, Mr. So-and-so. You've been placed on a no-call list. What's that mean? We won't accept your phone calls anymore because we can't believe what you say. From this point forward, all correspondence with Luxembourg, Garbutt, Kelly, and George must be in writing.
Oh, that's brutal. Not only do you not take your call, do you have somebody tell him why?
Yes, absolutely.
You didn't even lie and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Kelly's not in today."
No.
You just said, no, they don't want to take your call. And
That's only happened one or two times in 40 years.
How do you earn that gig?
Credibility.
Lie?
We have a deal, and then you back off it. You tell me you're going to do something, and then you don't do it. You have evidence that I've requested, and you don't produce it. Those are cardinal sins. You can't do that in our profession. Your credibility, you can't lose it, Eddie. You can't. Your credibility is like your virginity. Once you lose it in the legal profession, you never get it back.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to address the jury to the back of a 78 Buick Regal. What should I have asked you, Nancy? Now you got me thinking things. What should I have asked you that I didn't, sir? I love when you come in here. Larry Kelly, L.G.K.G.com. What did I not ask you?
You asked me everything, Ed. I love coming here. You are a pro's pro. And I think as a result, we have a great conversation, and hopefully that conversation allows the listeners to at least understand a little more about who Larry Kelly is, who Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George is, and when they're choosing a lawyer for their personal injury case, medical malpractice, workers' comp, Social Security, they have enough information to say, I'm going to give those guys a call. I'm going to hear what they have to say, because I believe that's important.
Thank you. You know that your Regal, that was everything looked like a Monte Carlo. The back seat, it was spacious. Good seeing you, kid.
When accidents and injuries happen, you need the experience and insight of the legal team at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George. Since 1934, they've been committed to the physical and financial recovery of personal injury victims. Why choose the law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George? Attorney Larry Kelly explains.
First of all, we've been AV rated by Martindale-Hubbell. It's the highest rating you can get for legal ability and ethics, and that comes from our